Men of Reddit, what is a time you felt creeped out by a woman? Married woman hitting on me while telling me I reminded her of her son. Girl. Not woman. I was 40. At my girlfriend's daughter's pool party. While in the pool, one of the daughter's 13-year-old friends grazed my cock. I ignored it thinking it was an accident. Then she did it again. Full on cupping me while dragging her breasts across my arm. Put on my best dad voice and told her that was very inappropriate and to not do it again. Mind you, other adults were within 5 feet of us. My girlfriend asked me what it was about. I didn't want to ruin the party, so I put her off and told her about it after the party was over. Couple hours later had a very awkward conversation with the girl's mother and stepdad about it. Apparently the girl had some issues and was in counseling for, among other things, sexually inappropriate behavior. My mother is creepy. She would do things like explicitly hit on my friends when we were as young as 12. I still haven't told her that all of my friends never wanted to hang out at my house because of her. My mother is not attractive and does not listen to polite or rude rejections either. So avoiding her was all you could do. That's totally f-kid. Even if she were attractive. To be hitting on 12-year-old boys. When I was 16 or 17 I had a job working in a staff cafe at a large department store. This one female employee who must have been in her late 40s hit on me relentlessly. Every day I worked as a server she would flirt with me. No. Flirt is too mild a word. She would graphically tell me what she wanted to do to me. Other people around? Didn't matter. She was a heavy smoker and looked like she was gaunt and looked older than she was. And she was creepy as hell. My manager told her to knock it off. But it didn't work. In the end my manager moved me to the back area doing food prep because of this one lady. Even then I could hear her asking where I was from the counter. I didn't really mind being in the back area though. I was just glad to not have to deal with her anymore. She should have been fired. All these people giving out stalking and sexual harassment stories. And I thought I had a winner with she tried to seduce me by meowing over a Skype call. Repeatedly. A girl started grinding on me at a club and I felt her putting her hands on my thighs. I thought she was just really getting into it. But it turned out she was trying to pickpocket me. I was a newly minted 18-year-old at the time and visiting my dad. They had some new neighbors that were throwing a party to get to know the neighborhood. A woman, maybe 40 at the time, was chatting with me. In hindsight she was flirting with me and kept touching and rubbing my arm. Finally she asked how old I was and when I replied I got met with 18-year-old skin. I love it. It's so soft and supple. I noped right out of there. Dude, she probably just wanted your skin for a suit. Settle down. Girl I worked with and wasn't friends with outside of work had my picture inside of her toolbox stuck under the lid so you see it when it's opened. She was married to a Mexican guy that I wouldn't want to fight. I was at a bachelor party in Palm Springs and my friend left the club with a girl. Said when they got to her house the dogs were scared of her and wouldn't come say hi or wag their tails. First bad sign. Then he ends up sleeping with her. When he's done he tries to leave, she will not let him. Like holding on to him. Then she whispered to him, "Want to know a secret? I killed my ex-husband." He bolts. Goes out the back. Hops the fence and eventually calls me screaming to come pick him up. Second-hand source. But the dude was scared. A girl I worked with this past summer asked me out. I told her I don't date co-workers. And she got a little embarrassed but said okay. I thought that would be that. Over the next few weeks, 2-3 nights a week, she would call me over FB Messenger and leave voicemails begging me to talk to her and lamenting how we couldn't be together. And leaving long rambling drunk texts that were completely illegible. The calls and texts would start at around 11 PM and wrap up at around 3 AM. Sometimes she'd call me up to 7 times in one night. I never answered the calls or replied to the texts. At work, I would pointedly ignore her while she found excuses to be in my vicinity. She wouldn't say anything. though. She'd also tell our other co-workers that we were in love, but couldn't be together because we were co-workers. I respected her privacy up until I heard that she was telling people this, at which point I'd show them the FB calls and texts. They felt pretty bad for me. It was pretty damn weird. I played Rocky in a live version of Rocky Horror. Apparently wearing a gold speedo means you can just come up and grab my schnitzel. Some of the old school fans, though enthusiastic, have no shame. Never doing that again. Edit. Okay. Schnitzel was a terrible word choice here. My dick wasn't beaten with a hammer. Breaded, fried, and or topped with cheese. I's dumb American. I worked as a lifeguard for a summer camp. We hung out with the camp counselors a lot throughout the summer. There was one counselor, let's call her Mary, who always gave me a weird vibe. But I ignored it. At the end of summer we all go to Mary's family cottage in Wasaga for the weekend. After the first night we were all sitting around for breakfast and Mary told everyone how cute I was when I was sleeping and that she took photos of me while I was sleeping. I note the FCK out of there. Was told by an older woman that I'm cute and she was going to pay me. Many years ago, I was at a mall food court minding my own business. I had just bought some food and a drink and sat down to eat. This random girl came up to me and tried to start a conversation with me, which was fine. But as we were chatting, she picked up my drink and started slurping away. It grossed me out. I didn't know this girl, and that was my drink. I would have thought it was common courtesy to at least ask before doing something like that. It creeped me out. I mentioned it. She got mad and left. Invited her over. I fell asleep while watching movie. I woke up because I couldn't breath. I couldn't breath because she was trying to make out with me while I was passed out asleep. When I was in college I was working retail and I had creepy girls quite often. Anywhere from a co-working accidentally running her hand across my crotch or ass every time we walked past each other. Or some weird grandma relentlessly trying to set me up with her 14-year-old granddaughter. Or some mid-40s women stick her business card down my pants while I was trying to help her son find something. But the absolute very worst was my first ever open bar wedding that I went to after turning 21. I got stupidly drunk and was sitting in a chair trying to fight off passing the FCK out when some drunk girl comes up to me and tries to stick her disgusting used panties that she has sweat in all day into my mouth. Met a Romanian girl from Transylvania and brought her home. After we finished having sex, and I'm nearly asleep, she says to me, "What would you do if I told you I was a murderer?" My eyes shot open. "Oh, is that something you're likely to tell me?" She just giggled. I didn't sleep much that night. And it sounds like we have something in common. Time for a Halloween story. One year, I bought a cheap cow costume from Target and wired it up with LEDs to make a cowboy costume. A lot of the LEDs ended up in the udder, which was somewhat unfortunately located right over my crotch. I went to a party that had a bunch of drunk nerd girls at it. I have never had my crotch grabbed by so many complete strangers before. Resistance is futile. I was at the club and a woman walked up and grabbed my penis. I'm like, no. That's mine. You sound selfish. You've had one for years and this poor woman has never had a penis. I'm a 6'6", 340-pound bearded Canadian man. I was bouncing, working security, at a concert when a 5'9", 350-poundish girl told me she wanted to stick all of me in her vagina. The weirdest part was the look on her old man's, boyfriend's, face as he looked up at her. And I. Despite of how it's portrayed on a lot of pornographic media, I got really creeped out by a woman offering to blow me behind an alley for free. I declined and f-ked off. When I was in college I had a job standing in front of a well-known clothing chain. Killer job. Great pay. A bit boring. But paid for a ton of my college. Man, did that job bring out the creeps in ladies though. Had a lady stop, suck air through her tongue and teeth, look me up and down, and then grunt. You not grunt. Another one licked my arm in front of her daughter. Another one told her husband boyfriend that she wanted me for her birthday and the guy then tried to negotiate a price for my night. Lots of others but those really stuck out. So you don't recommend working at Abercrombie and Fitch? Was at a party and passed out in a couch from intoxication. A friend of a friend who I had known had a crush on me for months was also there. I guess at some point almost everyone at the party went outside. And for an undetermined amount of time while everyone was gone she proceeded to grope me through my pants and kiss my neck. I only know this because after an undetermined period, someone came in, saw what was happening and told her to leave. I only have very vague memories of her actually touching me. But I recall not having the strength to move. Found out she is now posting me too. Edit. The status was taken down shortly afterwards. Either from close friends confronting her about it, or she simply remembered what she did. In high school, this horrendous looking chick MSG'd me on Facebook and asked if I'd help her with math and that she'd do anything for me. I clearly knew where she was going with this but I decided to make use of the situation by politely telling her how my dorm would need vacuuming and that I've got a lot of dishes to be done. She proceeded to straight out say how she wanted to give me a blowjob and told me everything about her semi-abusive childhood and early age SZUL experimentations. Needless to say, I kept my mathematical information to myself. I'll carry my mathematical secrets to the grave. One girl would text me every single day that she had a crush on me and would tell me at school. After I had told her multiple times I was not interested. Eventually I just told her I was gay to get her off me despite not being gay. Dude. Get yourself a gay buddy. I helped a guy in HS out with that same deal. Bitch get off my boyfriend's back works amazingly well to get rid of crazy women. Had a female friend drug and pay me. It's as effed up as it sounds. I knew something wasn't right when I woke up and it took me about 2 weeks, not sure on the exact amount, to piece it all together. A girl at my school had drawn rather explicit fanfic of me and my best friends. As it turns out I was not flattered when I discovered it like she thought I would be. So who are you? Tweak or Craig? During my grad school graduation party, this girl who I found repulsive in every way was really drunk and kept trying to make out with me. Like, coming up and trying to stick her tongue in my mouth. No matter what I did and how far I tried to get away from her, she'd find me and try to stick her tongue in my mouth. I briefly considered slapping her in the face, but figured that wouldn't go down well in a crowded bar. I ended up having to go home early because she wouldn't leave me alone. I matched with this girl on Tinder. She had flattering pics and everything and I swipe right generously. We start talking. And it turns out she goes to my gym. We swap Snapchats. I figure out which girl is her. And she looks little like her Tinder pics. Suddenly, when I am at the gym, I start getting snaps like your arms are so SI and you have an incredible ass and things like that. I tell her to stop because it makes me uncomfortable. She does it anyway. She also started using equipment close to me so she can be near me and will always talk to me. Especially when doing things like cardio. I tell certain people about it. They don't think it's a big deal. She's also bipolar. Is married, but supposedly getting divorced. Has 2 boyfriends on the side and is having sex with another married guy. I want nothing to do with that. About 10 years ago I pulled into a gas station and filled up. A woman approached me with her 2 young children. Probably about 6 year and 8 year old. She asked if I could bring them to her car a couple of blocks away. I wasn't too anxious about her intentions considering she had 2 little kids with her. She's probably not planning to carjack me, so I agreed and we piled into my truck. In the 2 blocks of driving she grilled me about what I did for a living and where I went to college. And magically she was interested in the same career. But of course wasn't actually in that career. Or trained in it. Or really knew anything about it. By the time we were getting her kids into her car, I was very suspicious that she had some kind of mental instability. She asked for my phone number in case she needed advice about software development. Sorry to whoever had the number 1 digit off from mine. Hopefully she wasn't too insistent that she knew you. Oh, and her kids spilt sunflower kernels all over the backseat of the truck in that 2 blocks. Had an ex drive some 2 hours to surprise knock on my door and deliver a wreath of garlic which she went out of her way to tell me she didn't poison. When my girlfriend puts her jumper on, she lets it get stuck on her head, then makes angry ape noises, and it creeps me out and scares me. I had a student when I was a TA that left a note and a pair of her panties in my mailbox. I worked at a neighborhood car rental place. It was in a you.I part of town. I was clearly moved there because they wanted black men working there. Again. you.I part of town. We literally had to buzz people in. Only 2 of us worked there. So there was a decent amount of time I was in there alone. Well, one day, a woman comes in and is asking for a free car. Basically she is whoring herself out. Literally. I'm all alone and there with a woman clearly on drugs and wasn't her first time being a prostitute. My time to shine. I was sitting at a dive bar with 2 friends last weekend. We were sitting down, talking and taking Snapchats. 2 girls in their early 20s who were in the bar walked in us and one of them said, "Were you filming us?" We weren't. So I turn my head toward her and say, "Sorry." "What?" She replied, "That's what I thought," and punched me in the face. By the time I realized what was going on, they were running out the bar laughing. The bartender chased them, but they got into a car and left before she had time to grab their license plate. There has been a few times actually, from being groomed by a woman in her 30s when I was 14 to just a few years ago, a woman from a hen party full on stuck her hand down my jeans and pulled on my Johnson a few times. Also had more than one woman put their hand up my kilt and grab my balls for no apparent reason. I've had women grab my crotch for jokes and stuff and I never found it funny. Tip for reading this thread: stop imagining all the people are hot. I was a bouncer in college. Anytime a bachelorette party came through, I knew I was headed straight to Molestville. It was disgusting. Wasn't really creepy, but I had a random girl in the mall run her hand across my chest as she passed by. Her friend followed and yelled, "She thinks you're hot," in my face. The only time something like that ever happened to me. It was simultaneously surreal and hilarious. Should have shouted back. I know, but I can do better. My wife and I simultaneously starting singing "Someone's in the Kitchen" with Dinah. With no explanation. So I guess I creeped her out too. Ever since I started working out like 5 or 6 years ago and built myself a body, women seem to think it's okay to fill me up. 2 times I have had my ass grabbed. And 2 times I have had my junk grabbed. Every time they seemed surprised that I had a problem with it. Carpooled with female neckbud boss in her compact stick shift car and she kept accidentally slowly rubbing my leg with her pinky. I'm weak. There was a girl I was nice to in high school because she was the class SLT and people kinda ignored her. Despite all my female friends' warnings, I became her friend. Things took a pretty bad turn after she stole my varsity soccer jersey and started wearing it around. Then she invited me over and tried to undress in front of me, even though I had told her I wasn't interested. Final straw was she got a job at the same Dairy Queen I was working at and started telling everyone that she was going to jump my bones. She got fired and I stopped talking to her. I think she had some major daddy issues and I still feel bad, but at 16 I was not equipped to handle all that. I was working as a bartender at a pretty quiet bar when a obese loud woman came in with a few other normal size normal volume women, and before she had a chance to get drunk, proceeded to tell me graphically how she would like to FCK me. Got weirder when my female boss basically heard the commotion, came over and joined in the fun banter. I can only imagine if genders were reversed in that scenario. It would sound as creepy as it felt.